Minecraft.
Hello everybody and welcome to the show. Today's episode we're going to be talking about the Bedrock Breaker, and in order to use a Bedrock Breaker I'm going to need these Industrial Coils. So I'm going to talk about the Industrial Coils as well. I know I've mentioned them in the past, but I don't know that I've really described them very well. So we're going to talk about the Industrial Coils, how they're used, how they work, and in addition to that, how I'm going to use them with the Bedrock Breaker. And then we'll start using the Bedrock Breaker, and we'll go from there. So let's just go ahead and get started, because I'm obviously messing up this intro something pretty badly. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the Industrial Coil. Now, the Industrial Coil is how we store energy in the RotaryCraft mod, storing the rotational energy. You may have noticed up until this point we haven't bothered with doing that. So this steam engine provides power directly to these fans. This steam engine is providing power directly to these grinders. This steam engine provides power to the woodcutter. This DC engine provides power to the fermenter. But at no point is any of that energy or power stored in any way. So when I turn on this DC engine, the fermenter is powered. When I turn it off, the fermenter is unpowered. If we can see over here, it's unpowered. So we haven't actually had any reason to store any power at this point. But now we're going to need to do that, and we do that with these Industrial Coils. So I have an Industrial Coil here in my hand, and you can see there it tells me the maximum amount of energy I can store, as well as how much is stored in it currently. If you exceed that maximum energy, it will explode and cause a huge problem for you. There's actually two types of Industrial Coils. The one that I have, which is the basic one, it only stores 720 megajoules of energy, and there's a higher tier one that stores 240 terajoules of energy, and of course that's a lot. There is a third one which is only for creative mode. It helps you if you're testing stuff, and it has an infinite amount of power, but you can't make it, and you don't use it in your survival world. Now, there's the two important things to remember with the coils. The first one is if you exceed the amount of energy stored in it, it will explode, which obviously is a bad thing. The second kind of important thing to remember with them is Industrial Coils can either take in power or release power. They cannot do both at the same time. So you cannot be charging a coil and discharging it at the same time. And it's easy to switch between the two. You just use a redstone signal. So I'm just going to move this lever here. When there is no redstone signal, it is in the mode of taking in power. And if you supply a redstone signal, it will be in the mode of discharging its power. Now, when you input power into it or store power in it, you can use pretty much any of the engines. Whatever amount of energy they generate will get stored into the coil. If you right click on the coil, then you get this little GUI, and here you can determine how it's going to be output, the amount of speed that will output and the amount of torque that will output when you give it a redstone signal. So for example, I could say I want a speed of 1 radian per second and a torque of 1 Newton meter. Now if I give it a redstone signal, you will see that's exactly what it's outputting. The torque is at 1 Newton meter, the speed at 1 radian per second, for a total of 1 watt of power. I could go into this and change this, for example, to, let's say, 10 on the speed and 15 on the torque. And we will look here, you'll see the torque is at 15, the speed is at 10, which will give me a total of 150 watts of power. And also there is a maximum of what you can put on these entries, which is 1024. And that is the most amount that you can put for both of these fields. And if you did that, you will of course be generating 1 million watts of power, which will drain down what I have stored in here fairly quickly. So I do not want to just leave it running like that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take up this lever and put it back here, and I'll explain why in a little bit. That is how the Industrial Coil works. You supply it with energy, it stores up its power. You can see I have 647 in that one, megajoules in that one, and I have 651 megajoules in that one. And as long as you don't exceed their maximum, which for these is 720 megajoules, you'll do fine. And of course, the other thing is you can input power or you can output power, but you can't do both at the same time. So you can't try to charge it while you're actually using the coil to do something else. So that's the limitation. Okay, the next thing that we can talk about is the Bedrock Breaker. And I've built one already. It's right here. They are pretty extensive to build. You need a couple of diamonds, some obsidian, and some steel parts there. Not extensive to build. I meant to say they're pretty simple to build. But you'll see here that the Bedrock Breaker requires 2 million watts of power and a minimum of 8,000 Newton meters of torque. 2 million watts of power, and just as a reference, these engines here, that one's not on, but this engine here is outputting 131,000 watts of power. So 2 million watts is, of course, a lot more than that. Now, we've already shown that I can set these industrial coils at this rating here, or at these numbers, I should say, and that would give me 1 million watts of power. And of course, because I need 2 million watts of power, that's why I have 2 of the coils. So let me go ahead and attach a junction to this. Okay, and so now I have both of these coils set to output at their maximum, and if I flip them both on at the same time, you can see here I am outputting 2 million watts of power, but now my torque is only 2,000 Newton meters of torque. So I need to multiply that by 4. And unfortunately, if I do that, the torque is so high that the only thing that can really stand it is a diamond 4-to-1 gearbox. And remember, with the gearboxes, you always need lubricant, but with the diamond one at least, you only need 1 bucket and it will never use it up. So we go ahead and place down our gearbox like so, and we'll go ahead and dump in the lubricant like that, and we make sure we got it on torque mode, which is what we want. And so now I get out another dynamometer here just to make sure I'm doing things correctly. So now if I turn these guys on, boop, now you'll see I'm producing 2 million watts of power with a torque of 2,000, and after going through the gearbox, I have my 2 million watts of power with a torque of 8,000, which is what it takes to operate this Bedrock Breaker. And in fact, if I put the Bedrock Breaker in line, you can see it spinning, meaning that it is working properly. So that is what I need to do in order to use the Bedrock Breaker. So let's take this whole contraption down to the bedrock level, and let's see it in action. Okay, somehow one of my industrial coils just vanished on me. So I'm here charging another industrial coil, and so I'm using 3 AC engines linked together and feeding into the coil. And you can see if I continuously right click with my angular transducer that it is gaining power. Now, as I said, to prevent it from exploding, this comparator will output proportional to the amount of power stored within the coil. And the maximum that a comparator outputs is 15. So 15 would be when the coil gets to 720 megajoules, which is, if you go over that, is when it will explode. So instead, I have this at a length of 14, I hope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then that, when it hits 14, it will emit the signal into the coil, which tells it to output power and stop taking in power, which, since there's no place for it to output to, and since I have no settings in here, all it will do is make it stop charging up. So right now, as you can see, it's outputting a power of 9. So that means it's about 9/15 of the way charged up, which sounds about right. So as it goes around and it gets there, I will come back when it gets to the point where hopefully it will stop and not explode. Okay, I think we're getting close to the point where this will stop. Remember, the explosion point is at 720. Currently we're at 665, 666, and it should stop when it gets to, I think, 672. It's outputting a signal of 13 right now. So we'll watch this, and hopefully it will very shortly hit that point and stop charging up this coil. There we go. And yes, we stopped it at 672.105. And that's what I mean about not using a signal of 15, because it would have gone to 720.105, and that would have been over the 720, and it would have blown up, which of course would not have been good. All right, so now that I have this one charged up, I will get it, and I'm going to take it downstairs to the bedrock level, and we'll show you that. Okay, I'm down here at the bedrock level, and I've set up the Bedrock Breaker. It does need to be in line with bedrock. As you can see here, it's aiming at this bedrock. One thing to note about the Bedrock Breaker, it will not break the bottommost level of bedrock. So if you're playing in a world with flat bedrock, I think you're gonna not be able to use this, because it will not break that very bottom level of bedrock. So if you have a one layer flat bedrock level, that won't work. But if you're playing in a standard world, it should work. I think I have everything hooked up correctly. I've got my gearbox torque with lubricant in it, and I've got my two coils, so they're charged up. So let's go ahead and start it. I'm gonna hope nothing blows up. All right, it's going. And is this thing turning? It doesn't look like it is, so I probably have something that's not. Oh, well, that's connected. Uh-oh, something isn't working properly. Oh, this one isn't turning properly. All right, let me fix that real quick. Whoop. I just have this set to the wrong colors. It should be yellow and then orange. There we go, now we're turning. And yep, we can see that Bedrock Breaker moving. And so what this will do is it will slowly grind down this bedrock, and we're just gonna wait here and we can see it happen. It will grind down this bedrock a little bit at a time, and as it goes you'll see a little like sliver of the bedrock come right off of the top there, and it will continue to do that until it has eaten away at the entire bedrock. And that it just happened right there. Hopefully you saw that. We'll go ahead and wait and watch it one more time. You can see that the bedrock now looks to be a little bit less tall less high as the others, and there just another piece of it came off. So it's almost like it takes off a pixel width at a time, which we are dealing with 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, but I think we have 16 pixels in total. We're going to watch this take off that level. There it goes right there. So that's what it does. It will grind down this bedrock using 2 million watts of power as it does it. And when it gets done grinding out this bedrock completely, I will come back and show you what we get out of it. Okay, this Bedrock Breaker is almost done with this one piece of bedrock. And pretty quickly here, I'll take off this last little layer of bedrock. Hopefully soon, so I don't have to keep filling this up with words. And there you go. You actually get an achievement for that as well. Now the Bedrock Breaker will extend out, I don't know exactly, maybe 3, 4, 5 spaces. So we'll actually start to grind down this next piece of bedrock here as well. And so if we wait here just a bit, we should see a layer of bedrock come off of that, which I think it may have done already, or maybe not. Just watch it a little bit more and see if it happens again. But yeah, it will continue out for a few spaces, so you can lay it down in front of a line of bedrock. There you go, and there's at least one layer of that bedrock on there. I'm going to go ahead and shut off these industrial coils, and if we look at them, this one's at 291 megajoules, and this one's at 234 megajoules. And if you remember, I started with about 607. Was that right? Yeah, 670 or so, somewhere around there. They both had different amounts, but around 670. So I used almost 450 or so megajoules of energy. So 2 fully charged industrial coils is enough to grind down one piece of bedrock completely. but it's not going to be enough to grind down the second one, so I'll have to take these back up and charge them up again in order to use them. But now that the Bedrock Breaker is done, what I can do is you go and right-click on the Bedrock Breaker, and you will see I got 2 pieces of bedrock dust. And for each block of bedrock that you break with the Bedrock Breaker, you will get 2 pieces of bedrock dust. Now, the bedrock dust can be used in various things that you can make. As you can see here, you can make bedrock shafts. There are bedrock gears, so this is how you would make the bedrock gearboxes and the bedrock shafts, as well as these high strength springs, which are used in the higher tiered industrial coils that we can't make quite yet, because as you can see, I need to actually have 8 of those. Oops! In order to make this tension coil for this higher thing. So that of course would require quite a bit. But what I'm actually interested in doing right now is I want to be able to make these bedrock alloy ingots. And as you can see, I need a piece of steel, and I need 4 bedrock dust in the blast furnace to make 1 bedrock alloy ingot. So I need 4 bedrock dust for each one of these. I actually want to make 3 of these, which means I'll need 12 bedrock dust. And of course, since I get 2 per block, that means I need to break 6 bedrock blocks in order to get what I need. And that means, well, quite a bit of going back and forth with these industrial coils, constantly charging them up and that kind of stuff. So anyway, I am going to continue working on that. And when I have all of the bedrock dust that I need, I will show you what happens at that point. Okay, so a few days later, I finally have 12 pieces of bedrock dust. Okay, and we can see here in the RotaryCraft handbook that we use the blast furnace to make the bedrock ingots. And you can see here it says to make a bedrock ingot, put 4 bedrock dust in the left, 1 steel ingot in the top left of the grid, and heat the machine to 1,000 degrees Celsius. This part is something that I had to struggle with for a while because I wasn't actually sure how to accomplish it. But I did figure it out. It turns out the tool I need to use, or the machine I need to use, is the friction heater. Now you might remember that I used a friction heater over here with my regular furnace in order to not only make it so I didn't have to use any fuel in it, but it also sped up the process of how quickly it smelts things. Well, it turns out that the more power you provide to a friction heater, the higher the temperature it can go on heating it up. With some trial and error, I determined that I need 4 of these AC engines all hooked together. And go ahead and turn them all on, let them grind away a little bit. And you can see here that the friction heater is quickly up to 800 and now 900, and it will eventually get up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. And so now my blast furnace is at 1,000 degrees Celsius. And that also means that if I want to make regular steel in this, it will also be a faster process. So let's go ahead and grab some steel, or some iron, I'm sorry. And we'll go ahead and put this in here. It's at 1,041 degrees Celsius. And it does seem to be a little bit quicker. So yeah. So that's how we heat up the blast furnace to 1,000 degrees, which is good. And it also means that I don't need to have the lava anymore. So you can see that the lava that used to be under here that kept it warmed up to 600 some odd degrees is now gone, because obviously I don't need that. So apparently what I do is I'm going to go ahead and take all these items out. I take 4 of the bedrock dust in this side here and 1 steel ingot here. And okay, maybe it goes like this, or like this, or like that, or like that, or maybe it's the other way around, like so. No. Alright, let me figure this out. It says like this. There we go. It's got to be exactly like this. Bedrock dust in this middle slot and the steel ingot up here. And when we do that, we will get, ta-da, 1 bedrock alloy ingot. I'm going to go ahead and make 2 more of these. 1, 2. And that will give me a total of 3. Now, with these bedrock alloy ingots, you can make all kinds of tools as well as the bedrock armor. And as soon as this third one gets done finishing, there we go, I now have 3. And I'm going to keep this shut off when I don't need it, not only to preserve the shaft cores that are in the AC engine, but also to make sure that my furnace doesn't overheat and melt. That's still a possibility, I believe. Okay, so now that we have the bedrock alloy ingots, as I said, you can use them to make a pickaxe, a regular axe. They're used to make some other different kinds of tools and whatnot. Let's see. Shovels, there's a sword, and all the different tools. There's the pieces of armor that you would use to make it with, and then some other stuff. But what I'm actually going to make is this right here, the Bedrock Pickaxe. And I do need 2 shaft units to make that. Let me see if I have those already or not. If I don't, which I don't, they're not that hard to craft. Just put some steel ingots like so. And so now I should be able to go ahead and make this Bedrock Pickaxe. Just like that. Now, the Bedrock Pickaxe has a couple of benefits. First of all, any of the bedrock tools and armor are automatically unbreakable. They do not have durability, they do not break. You can use them forever. Considering how much effort it took to get this thing, I'm kind of glad for that. The other thing is as you can see, the Bedrock Pickaxe automatically also has Silk Touch, allowing me to get ores. And that is fairly important for me at this stage of things that I'm doing, mainly because I need to get redstone ore. So if we go down here to my mining cave, whoop, and run over here, I know I left some redstone in the walls. There we go. I can use my Bedrock Pickaxe. Pretty quick too. And now I've got redstone ore. I'm going to go ahead and collect up a bunch of this redstone ore, and I'll show you why I need it in just a little bit. Okay, so I've gotten myself just 1 over a stack of redstone ore here, and I actually got a bunch of other stuff, but I've already dumped it in the ME chest just because I was having fun digging stuff up with my Bedrock Pickaxe. And as you can see, no durability, no damage. This will theoretically last forever. I have to say theoretically for a reason. It turns out that the modular power suits armor is also indestructible, or it's supposed to be. But it turns out that if you have the Infernal Mobs mod, like I do, and you encounter an Infernal Mob that has the Rust ability, it can actually rust your armor and give it damage and possibly destroy it. Potentially, I would say the same thing could be possible with the Bedrock stuff. I've decided to go ahead and leave that alone, and I'll explain why in a minute. Just like any other ore, it can be processed in the extractor. And so I am going to process this stack of redstone ore and let it go through for a reason, which you'll see. As I said, the modular power suits armor will take damage from the rust ability in Infernal Mobs. I decided to go ahead and leave that in as sort of an extra challenge, if you will. So I have actually had to create a second set of the modular power suits armor, and I haven't really fought anything in it yet. If you know anything about modular power suits, these modules that are in there, when you take them out, or you try to take them out, you have a chance of not being able to, just, damaging the components that make it up. So for whatever reason, I thought, well, it kind of sucks that the rust ability will cause damage to something that's not supposed to be damaged. But I ultimately decided I'll take that as an extra challenge. So that's why I've left it. And it's also why, if you look at my modular power suits armor, I have an energy shield on my chest plate, on my leggings, and on my boots, and not on my helmet. I had one on the old set of armor, but when I attempted to uninstall it from that old set of armor, it didn't survive the one coming out of my helmet. So such is life. I'm taking that as part of the challenge of this particular set of mods. Okay, so as I said, I'm going to let this extractor run, processing this stack of redstone, and when it's done, which will take a little while, I will come back and show you what we have. Okay, so this is why we picked up the redstone ore. In addition to the extractor working it down into redstone ore flakes, you will occasionally get, as a byproduct, tungsten flakes. And this is the only way to get this particular kind of tungsten with this mod. There might be other mods that you can add, which may or may not give you the tungsten, but with the mods that I have, it's the only way to get the tungsten. Now, the redstone ore flakes, as you might suspect, cook up into 4 pieces of redstone. So just like other ores, you multiply how much you get out of it, and these tungsten flakes will, of course, they don't smelt in the furnace. Alright, let me see how I do. Oh, I need to get this thing up to 1350 degrees Celsius. Holy moly. Alright, let me figure that out. Okay, well that took a little bit more work than I was expecting, to be honest with you. At first I tried hooking up 6 of my AC engines in sequence, and that did not generate enough heat through the friction heater. So I had to go and make, then I tried putting both of my industrial coils on their full power, and that still didn't get me up to the 1350 degrees Celsius I need for this tungsten. So I actually had to make a 3rd industrial coil, charge it up, and now with all 3 of these, I should be able to hit it. I went ahead and just made myself a way to heat up either the blast furnace or the regular furnace with this little contraption here. So let's heat this up. I've got it on the furnace, and I believe this will get it up to 1350 degrees Celsius. Let's see, it's climbing here, 1337, 1352, so that definitely does it. Let's stick this tungsten in here. Ah, yes, we're getting tungsten ingots. Excellent. I need to shut that off because I'm pretty sure that that's a high enough temperature that it might cause some type of melting. I'm going to put this stuff away back in my backpack just to get it out of my inventory. There we go. So now I have these tungsten ingots, alright, and my extractor is still powering away. I've got some more tungsten flakes, and as you can see, so far I've collected this much of the redstone ore flakes. Remember, when I put these in the furnace, each one of these will give me 4 redstone. So I'm going to have a ton of redstone, which is always good, of course. But I've got these tungsten ingots. Why do I want tungsten ingots? Well, I am going to show you. Tungsten ingots are used primarily to make these compound turbines. And compound turbines are then used to make, well, turbines. And as you can see from the tooltip there, turbines are a piece of ReactorCraft. That is right, the turbine is what I need in order to start building my first nuclear reactor. And so that is what I'm going to be working on. Nuclear power. I can't wait. But I think that's going to do it for this episode. We've accomplished quite a bit. We were able to make our Bedrock Pickaxe. I'm still going to collect more bedrock dust. And the next thing that I will probably build with that, or make with that, is a bedrock sword. It's a very powerful sword. It does a lot of damage, but it also has looting 5. And that's really important to me right now because I need a lot of ender pearls in order to finish kitting out my power suit armor the way I want it to be. And if you've seen any of my previous episodes, you know that I always have the darndest time getting ender pearls. I mean, first I've got to find an enderman. I've got to kill it, which isn't so hard, and then I've got to hope that it will drop an ender pearl. and sometimes they don't, which is a bummer. But with a looting sword, I have a higher chance of getting pearls, and I don't know if I can get multiple pearls from an Enderman, but it does, I know, give me a better chance of getting the pearls in the first place, which of course is a really, really good thing. So, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you next time.